What's up, folks? It's 2Bricks and I'm back in with another video. Today's going to be kind of an interesting one because it's a combination of sort of a review video and also a mock video of sorts. So in front of me right here you can see the kind of cherry on top for what has been a legendary year for LEGO Star Wars. The 25th anniversary, the 6, or I guess you could say 7 minifigures celebrating the end of the first quarter century of the theme, and giving us some absolutely legendary characters that we never thought we'd get to see from LEGO in LEGO form. Unfortunately, though, I am a LEGO Star Wars fan, and so I always want more, even though I know I shouldn't. That's just what it is, right? I want to see more different types of crazy aliens and characters and cool stuff that we've never gotten before. There are just so many wonderful characters, I mean, numbering in the thousands at this point in the Star Wars universe, that I want to see made into minifigures. We've got some really cool new elements like the new updated Celestin head. We got the lower chin piece helmet there for some really nice specialized unique cape prints and cloth elements like that. So some really great stuff, no doubt. But I wanted to expand upon this lineup a little more, and one of the characters that I was sort of had in my bingo for, you know, when I heard that they were doing 25th anniversary minifigures, one of the characters that I had was Boss Nass. I was convinced we were going to get a Boss Nass minifigure when they said we're doing this, because it's, you know, 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace. We've gotten Gungans before, we've gotten Captain Tarpals, Jar Jar Binks, generic random background Gungan soldiers, but never Boss Nass. And I was like, okay, we're definitely going to get it. That did not happen, so I had to eat crow on that one. But I just thought this would be the perfect opportunity to go ahead and make one. And luckily, the company Entina reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in taking a look at their sort of junior grade 3D printer, a printer that is designed for younger audiences who are just getting into 3D printing to mess around with and get a kind of a taste for the 3D printer experience. And I said I would be interested if it's something that you can actually make your own custom stuff with, because it seemed like from the advertisements for the Entina, particularly the Tina 2S, which is the model that they were going to send me, it seemed like you could really only print some sort of pre-made items from their catalog, and that was that. And they were like, no, you can do your own custom stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, heck yeah, I'm in, let's do it. And I decided to take that opportunity to see if I could create my own Boss Nass minifigure to add to my lineup. So that's a challenge that I've undertaken this last couple of weeks. It's taken a lot of research and messing around with all different kind of software programs, digging out some old skills that I forgot I had possessed from way back when. And I'm really excited to go on the journey with you guys today and show you the results of that, as well as giving you a lowdown on the Tina 2S, which is my first ever experience with a 3D printer, and I absolutely love it. I'm super addicted. So I'm really excited to share that with you guys, and I think it has a lot of really cool features, which I'm kind of surprised about, because it was advertised as sort of a, you know, baby's first 3D printer, and I actually think it has a lot of really great features to it that I'm really excited to share with you guys. So let's get into the video. I'll show you the step-by-step process of how I made my custom minifigure and the final results of it, and I'll also give you guys the info about the printer and all the software and things that I used along the way to achieve the result that I wanted to achieve. So super excited. Let's get into the video. Sorry for the long-winded intro, but I had a lot to go over, and now we can get into the meat of the video. So let's go. All right, so here is the Entina Tina 2S version 10, I guess, printer. And I gotta say, this is by far and away the coolest thing I've ever been sent to review. So if it's unclear, this segment of the video is sponsored. This product was sent to me by Entina to you know, see if I could make something cool with it. They encouraged me to think creatively and make something cool for my channel that would be relevant to all of you guys, to see if this is something that you would be interested in having for yourself. There's my very first print, the bunny. And yeah, I gotta say, it works great. And there's a lot of really cool little features about it that I would like to share with you guys. So we'll start off with, this came packaged, this is the spool here with your filament, which is what is fed into the machine and actually gets melted down to make the 3D prints. So this was packaged in its own sort of separate plastic housing, and then you pull that out, and then they have you initially pull this tube out of here, so it's stored inside of here, and you just pull that out and you plug it in right here until it won't go down any further into this little housing. And then they have you basically pull this aside, this little kind of filament thingy, sort of on a spring, right, like right there, you can see, and that sort of releases this little catch, and that lets you feed the filament in, and you just feed it all the way up through. You keep just feeding it until it goes all the way down into the print head under here, and then you just stop. There's also a small yellow piece of plastic, which I believe is located down here, which is just sort of a thing you pull out. And there's also one piece of tape that you pull off. It's just sort of holding some stuff together, and then you discard that. And that's all the setup, that you just plug it in and it's good to print, which I was like so happy about. So when I first unpacked this, because I have never had any experience with 3D printers before, I was completely just terrified, because I'm like, this is a machine that it looks scary to me. I don't know what it is. And so I looked on the Entina website and on their YouTube channel for some tutorials, and they have some kind of scary Uncanny Valley AI lady tutorials there that I didn't find super helpful. So instead I just Googled Entina 2S setup, and I found a couple of YouTube videos that were really helpful, that just walk you through the setup process. And literally is, like I said, you remove that plastic, you pull off the tape, you feed this into the tube, you connect the tube, and you're done. So, so yeah, I was really relieved it was that simple, because I'm very much not a tech-minded person. It takes me a long time to learn a new piece of software or to learn how to use a new gadget, and so that was a relief for me. So let me walk you through the stuff that you get and some of the cool features about this printer. So included in this bag, you get all of the following, as well as something up here, which is a little SD card, which I'll show you in a second. So you get a glue stick, which is to help with adhesion if you are if you're building a print here that doesn't have a base. So usually, even like this one right here, comes with a pre-made base that gets laid down on the plate here first, and then your build is printed out on top of that. And then when you're done, you just snap that off of the base, and it just comes away nice and easy. And that is to make sure that the print actually stays situated on the bed as it's moving around and as it's doing its thing. So if you're doing a particularly finicky build with you can set the options to don't have a base and instead have a little tree support and stuff like that. You can use your glue stick to make sure that it stays stuck down, which is cool. We have a couple of tools, some Allen wrenches and things to take some things apart, and a spare, I believe this is a spare or replacement nozzle for the printer head under here. So you can see the original one there. So you give an extra one of those. And then you get this little handy dandy USB stick. This is my favorite thing right here. So the SD card I mentioned plugs into this, and then this plugs into your computer, and that allows you to download custom models right from your computer into this, and then you take the SD card out, put it in here, and then you can select the print that you want to get from the SD card, which is super awesome. I'm not sure what this is for. Oh, I guess it's an extra adapter, so you can then plug this USB-A into this, and then this is for USB-C. So if you have a Mac laptop which only come with USB-C, that gives you that option as well. Then we have the case here that came with for the SD card, and then we also have a little tool here. So this is to clear out any clogs that you might get. 3D printers do sometimes clog up, and then you just unclog it with that. And then, like I said, the extra tools here, which I actually have not had any use for so far. Your warranty and your instruction manual. I also did not look at the instruction manual because it was super easy with the online tutorial that I found. And then this is a direct USB cable, which you can connect your computer directly to the printer, so you can just download models that way if you don't want to use the SD card that's built in. You can see up here, you have the little screen. So when I go into the menu here, I can go down and I can say print from TF. That's the card right there. And then all of your pre-built models that come with this. So the rabbit that I built there is actually just one that was included on the card with, straight out of the box. But you can keep scrolling down, and when you have custom models, so like for example, when I have my Boss Nass figure that I was working on, you'll see it listed there. And it's really just a matter of opening up the, you connect this to your computer, you open up the folder, and you just drag and drop, or you save out of Cura or whatever slicer software you're using, which I'll go over in a little bit when I show you the software side of this. You just drop it right in there, and then it's on there. That's it. It takes like a few seconds, super duper easy. So yeah, this couple QR codes right here are for your app, so you can actually have access to a catalog of pre-made models that you can get onto your phone, and then you can put that straight into the printer as well. And that's, again, just giving you a little bit of extra access to pre-built models in case you are just interested in this for like the kids to play around with and just pick a model and print it out. And then here is the support link as well. So there's that. It has a LED down inside of the print area here, which is really nice because oftentimes I would leave this to run because I would be running a complex model, and I would leave it to run for 2 or 3 hours and then turn off all the lights and go to bed, and then I would come out and want to see the progress, and then the light would just be on in the little bay there, and that would let me see. So we have our magnetic plate right here. So this is heated. Let me pull that off. So this is a heated bed, and then it makes for really good adhesion for when you're for when it's running the prints. I actually made this. I made the mistake of heating this up extra because the model plate that I was printing out got stuck on here too well, and I wasn't actually able to pull it off. So then I just exposed this to a naked flame like an idiot. And you can see there I actually singed the corner of the plastic, and I was like, whoop, better not do that again. So do not do that. I found the best way actually is to just simply bend the plate a little bit, and then you can get a little blade or a fingernail or something underneath there and pop it off if your print area is stuck on here too effectively. And then yeah, you don't have to like line it up super well or anything. You just place it on here pretty much, you know, lined up with how it's supposed to be indicated in here. And also it doesn't matter where you place this, like it can be in whatever position. It will manually reset itself when it starts printing, and it's also an auto leveling machine. So apparently, for those who are in the know about 3D printers, leveling is an annoying process that this you don't have to worry about because it auto levels for you. So super cool on that. It's small, as you can see right here. So one of my minifigures right here for scale. It sits comfortably on my desk, and downstairs I was having it set up on my dining table. Really, really easy and small, and you just have your little roll of filament off to the side there, and it just feeds in automatically, and it runs. It just prints whatever you want to print. I only had a couple of errors that were actually my own fault because of how I designed the parts. I'll go through that a little bit later on when I'm walking you through the actual individual parts, but the machine is remarkably, I would say, remarkably accurate and produces pretty beautiful prints. Like this is at the standard resolution, so it's actually not that fine of a detail. You can see here that the lines are visible, but they're definitely sandable, right? But when I actually set it to the highest resolution, it looks beautiful. The stuff that it prints out looks really, really great. So I'm really excited to get into the specific things that I designed for this. And that's kind of just my overview of the machine. It works exactly as intended out of the box. It really is. I mean, they say it's recommended for children. I don't think I agree with that. It's definitely something that you want to supervise your kids with because it's, you know, it's got a bunch of moving parts. And I mean, it even says here, don't put your hands in here when this thing's moving around, and there's hot plastic that's dripping out of this thing right here and being printed out. So definitely not something you want to like just leave your kids with unsupervised. But I think as an entry-level machine, it does absolutely everything that you want to do. It does have, the one drawback is that it has this small area of print, so you can really only get small objects out of this thing. You're not going to be printing anything massive whatsoever. However, if you're creative, you can come up with ways to break models up into parts, perhaps to be glued. If you really want to get this and make something huge on it, you'll have to figure out a creative solution for that. But for my purposes, printing out like custom Lego elements, absolutely perfect. And I'm really, really happy with the print quality as well. So yeah, really, I have no complaints about this whatsoever. I'm actually shocked. I really was fully expecting this to be a disappointment. Especially, I read a couple of the reviews on Amazon where people said this was like a gimmick or a waste of time. I really don't know what they were talking about because so far this has exceeded all of my expectations. And like I said, this is my first 3D printer experience. So maybe I'm just ignorant of what's possible, but I've been super, super happy. So let's get on to taking a look at what I actually attempted to design and going through the different stages of figuring this stuff out. So the first thing I did is I wanted to just print something to just see how it all works and see the process. So I selected this bunny, which was included on the SD card, which I can then pull out and just show you really quick. So there that is. And then once I got that working, I took my X-Acto knife and I cut off the little supports and the little extra bits. There was a couple of teeny tiny little artifacts like on the tips of the ears, there was a little dot, and I just shaved that off really, really sloppily. I wasn't trying to like clean this up to be beautiful or anything like that. And a couple of the bits on the stand here that didn't detach automatically, I just cut those off. Super duper easy, very minimal cleanup for that. So then I took my, this guy right here, and I placed the SD card inside of it. You don't have to do it one-handed, I'm just doing it for a challenge. And then I plugged that into my computer because I wanted to see if I could download something from Lego Studio and then bring it over and print it out. So that's what I did. And this is the first attempt that I did for that. Let me just try to focus this up, sorry about that. So I picked a piece that I thought was fairly complicated, and I wanted to see how well it could replicate the details, just so I could see what exactly I'm working with here and what kind of options that I have. And I also wanted to see, you know, would it actually fit onto a minifigure? And so, you know, that was my number one first test that I did. Oopsie daisy. And then, so yeah, I was able to get this to fit onto a minifigure. It's a tight squeeze, and I could probably clean this up a little bit more. And you can see here it's kind of dirty looking, and that's actually my fault. So this was my first you know, experience with a 3D print that's custom. And so what I had looked up is the best place, the best orientation to have this model in for when it prints, and I determined that that would be upside down because I wanted the inside part of the you know, the hair with all of the kind of very specific shapes in here to allow for a minifigure head to fit. I wanted those to print as cleanly as possible with as minimal cleanup, so I wanted all the support structures to be out here on top of the actual hair. So when it printed out like this. That did turn out to be somewhat of a mistake because then it meant that I had to cut off a lot of extra little bits of support that were kind of intermingled in with the details of the hair, and that kind of ruined the effect somewhat. But I did have a custom minifigure piece here printed out that fit onto a minifigure, and I was super happy with that. So the process to actually get this out of Studio and physically print it into the real world was not as simple as you might think. It isn't a case of just exporting the piece as a certain file format and then hitting print. I had to download several software packages. So first of all, I had to get a program called LeoCAD, which is able to read files that get exported out of Lego Studio. And LeoCAD allowed me to save my Lego piece as and export it out into a readable format, such as an OBJ. So I actually had to export it as what's called a wavefront OBJ, and then that was able to be opened up in Maya, which is my sculpting program of choice, only because I only know how to use Maya for anything CG. I've never actually trained on anything else before, but I was an animator for many, many years, and Maya is pretty much all I've ever used. So I was like, well, if I can get into Maya, I know I can make something usable from there. So going from LeoCAD into Maya, I didn't actually do any cleanup or anything on this. I just scaled it to fit what I knew would work on a real world minifigure, just using some actual simple metrics of what I downloaded online of like the dimensions for a minifigure. So I knew the size of a minifigure head, and I was able to transpose that into Maya, and therefore I knew the scale would work for what I was doing. And then out of Maya, I was able to export an OBJ, which I was then able to bring into Cura. And Cura is what's called the slicing software. So that's what it's called slicing software because it takes your 3D model and it makes it into slices, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little slices, and that's what the lines are, right? So each slice is one operation performed by the 3D printer, one layer, and it builds those layers up over and over and over and over again until you have a 3D object. And it's a little bit more complicated than that because on the interior of this, there's like a zigzag crisscross pattern that the machine automatically does to fill it in with a structure that's really nice and strong and will support this, and it's super solid. And it feels, you know, solid, but it is actually mostly hollow. So, you know, that saves on plastic, which is awesome. So yeah, once I had my thing in the slicer software, I rotated it around because it was showing me a preview of where the supports were going to be, and I was a little bit nervous about digging the supports out of the inside of this, like I was saying. And then so yeah, I printed it out upside down, and then I had my first piece printed out of the computer from Studio into the real world. So like I said, no cleanup on this model whatsoever, and it worked pretty much beautifully. I'm super happy with the results. Like it's a one-to-one replica. It doesn't have the same level of smoothness and everything, but you know, I didn't expect it to because it's a low poly representation for the studio software to be able to just show you the piece with the minimum amount of detail possible so that the software stays nice and light. And so I wasn't expecting it to look like this, but nevertheless, I was really, really happy with the result. So then onto the first custom piece that I actually made. So since I was making a Gungan, I figured the next thing I should do is import a Gungan from LEGO Studio into Maya the same way that I did before, exporting it out, opening it up in LeoCAD, exporting an OBJ from LeoCAD and putting that into Maya. Then I could make my tweaks. I initially thought I would be able to just tweak the model for the Jar Jar Binks head, you know, make him fat, and then give him a hat and print it out and job done. Turned out to be a little bit more complicated than that, but so what I ended up doing is just using this as reference. So I just brought in the head. I attempted to bring in a torso, but for some reason the torso piece did not want to translate over. So I had to just use the head as reference, and that turned out to be somewhat of a mistake. So what I did is I just ended up sculpting alongside the head of the Jar Jar Binks here, and I came up with this piece right here. So this is my Boss Nass prototype, and yeah, I was really, really happy with how it looked scaled alongside. And then I gave him some shoulder pads, and I gave him his hat, and yeah, I was over the moon with it. And I gave him his ears at the back, you can see here. So really, really traditional, super basic polygon sculpting here, starting with a cube and subdividing it, stretching things out, adding edge loops and adding detail as needed to slowly build it up to a point where I was happy with the model. And there you can see Boss Nass brought to life in this form. Unfortunately, he's like 3 times too big. I don't know what happened, but as I was doing the sculpt and as I was scaling it, because I didn't have a minifigure torso or legs in there to reference, I ended up just going way overboard with this, and so I'm calling this my prototype because it's very obviously gigantic, and I don't know what I was thinking. So, but there it is. This is set to the highest settings possible. So you can see here the lines are barely visible. It just feels like a very, very slight texture. And once again, under here, I have where all of the supports are. I didn't clean it up, so all of this crisscross material under here, that's actually part of the support. I can just take an X-Acto blade and I can just cut those off fairly easily until I get nothing but the actual print. But I didn't bother doing that because this thing is so comically oversized that I just simply didn't want to waste any more time with it. I wanted to get right back into sculpting and get to the next stage for prototype Boss Nass version 2. And just for comedic scale here, I wanted to show you what I initially thought was a perfect size for my Boss Nass minifigure head. That is so funny. What was I thinking? So then it was time for version number 2. And what I ended up doing is just scaling down the entire Boss Nass head. I actually ended up tweaking his facial features just a little bit. I wanted him to look a little bit more mad, so I brought down the corners of his mouth, and I actually raised up his nostrils a little bit and shrunk them slightly because I wanted it to look just a little bit more Boss Nass-esque, and I was really happy with the overall result there. You can see this one really got chewed up in the process of me cutting out the supports. I actually did a really bad job of cutting those out. I also added in this little kind of front detailing piece right here because I thought it'd be nice to have a little something from his costume physically present in the minifigure. Unfortunately, I messed up on the ears for this one. I actually slightly tweaked the way that the ears were shaped, so they no longer had this curvature to them, and instead kind of went straight down off of the bottom of the Boss Nass figure. And what ended up happening there is that the ears were the only thing being supported in the initial part of the print, and they ended up getting kind of wonky and going off completely and just becoming this weird exploded shape out off to the side here, where the printer just simply I actually saw it happening. Like each time that the print head would come down, it would sort of move the whole piece like this with the print head, and it created this really weird wacky shape here. So I knew not to make anything so thin and so unsupported for the next go around, so that was a lesson learned right there. And once again, I didn't bother to cut off all the support structures and everything under here because I just thought, well, you know, I'm not going to waste my time because this is obviously not going to be usable. He has no ears. But I was really happy with how the sculpt was going, and I just wanted to again tweak what I was doing here with the front section because I just felt like Boss Nass needed that little extra bit of heft And so I wanted to do sort of like a Chewbacca torso-esque idea. So I ended up sculpting a new front section here. And I also ended up cleaning up the model a lot because there was a lot of stuff about this model that was not good. It was very, very sloppily made. And because I was kind of rushing, I just wanted to get this printed out. And I ended up making a lot of mistakes with the internal geometry here. So one thing that I was doing is I was leaving all of the internal structure of these different shapes. So I actually modeled his hat, the side flaps, and then the little thing above the ears, the kind of ear braid in here, and then the ears themselves were all separate pieces, and then the shoulder pauldrons were separate pieces too. So I ended up just merging all of those together into one thing and leaving all of the geometry inside the model for each of those pieces, which is a big no-no. The 3D printer does not know what to do with that, and it doesn't like it. So what you should do is have one clean shell that is just the final shape represented. And of course, this is all stuff I'm only now learning because I don't know anything about 3D printing, or at least I didn't a week ago. And so yeah, I ended up cleaning up the geometry, actually going back to the initial version of the design and recombining these elements in a way that would cut out all of the internals, cleaning up the mesh, and then it was on to version 3. All right, and here is version 3. So I ended up completely resculpting the ears because previously what I had done is that I actually just taken the Jar Jar Binks ears and I had separated out these parts of the model and I had brought them together and I'd made the little kind of clasp that holds his ears together, and I just used the geometry from the actual imported Lego piece. But the technique in which this was made was so incompatible with my own modeling style. It was just really throwing off the model, and so I ended up just remaking it in the same way that I did everything else, just start with a cube and sculpting the details slowly by building up extra layers of geometry as needed until I got the shape exactly how I want it. Then I also ended up, like I was mentioning, making these little chest pieces front and back here to give him a little bit more of a barrel chest, so that when the minifigure is, when he's wearing this, he looks a little bit more chunky. And it also helps to make his head not feel so oversized because, you know, he's got a little bit more heft in his body too. I ended up tweaking the shoulder pauldrons so they have a nice downward slant to them. So when it's sitting over the arms, there isn't like a huge gap between the top of the arms and the pauldron. And then I ended up also redoing his hat, where I took out some of the extraneous detail that I didn't need. And then I also gave it a slight bit of a tilt backwards, like a sort of a Santa hat effect, where it's kind of going back a little bit because I thought that was a bit more charming than it just sticking straight up like a big cone. And then again, I tweaked his facial features ever so slightly to just get it to be the closest to that face that we all know and love from Boss Nass, where he's mad and he's about to start flinging spittle everywhere. And so this is the final face sculpt right here. He's got his tiny little horns above his eye stalks there, and there's a little bit of an extra piece actually I have to clean up on here. So, but this is the version that I'm actually going to be sanding and painting. So I'm super excited for that. This will be the first time I'm attempting to sand or paint any of these elements. You can see here, he fits down onto the minifigure torso there very nicely. I'm actually going to sand down the interior of this just a little bit more. There's a tiny bit of the support material left. Now, of course, I won't be able to get this off, but there's a tiny bit of the support material left on the inside here that is blocking it from sitting all the way down. And when it does, hopefully, if I measured everything correctly within the software, then hopefully this should fit where the bottom of this torso lines up with the hip line there, or at least close to it. I don't mind if it's a little off, but yeah, I want it to be close. So what I'm going to do now is take some fine grit sandpaper and I'm going to clean this piece up as best I possibly can. And then I'm going to start messing around with paint application. All right, and here is Boss Nass all painted up, or at least primed. So I just use some regular old gray primer that I always use for these type of projects, just to seal it up, give it some grip for the paint to hold on to. I tried to clean up some of the bits, although there are still a couple I'm seeing now on camera that it's actually really hard to see in real life that I still want to smooth out. There's a couple of little tiny things here on little surface imperfections. I think those were introduced by me spray painting it, seeing a couple of trouble spots, sanding it, and then the not waiting for long enough, so the actual sanded particles ended up sticking to the still tacky paint. Whoops, that's my bad. So I'm going to go ahead and now it's been drying for a full 24 hours. I'm going to go ahead and sand that down, and I'm still going to try to chisel out a little bit more of the interior of this to just get this to sit slightly lower, because it's still not quite where I want it to be, even though I did remove as much of the material under here as I could. That seemed to be for support purposes. For whatever reason, again, maybe I miscalculated in my original model, but it's not sitting down as low as I had wanted it to. So the trial and error continues. All right, so I went ahead and cleaned up this figure as best I could. I gave it another coat of spray paint, and then I sanded off some of the little areas that were a little bit knobbly and a little bit unpleasant to look at. And I'm not super happy with the results. And also I was not able to get this sufficiently carved out in order to have it be able to sit down flat where I want it to. So what I decided to do is go back and make some tweaks to the design and print another version. And so I have that version right here. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this out and clean it up and see how it looks. I actually did make some further tweaks to the design on this one, so it's actually kind of hard to tell. But so I added this whole kind of front detail section here, right? So this is obviously absent from the previous version because I wanted to see if I could actually paint the cloth pattern detail in here for Boss Nass rather than have to rely on stickers or trying to do some sort of a consistent print. So yeah, I sculpted it in there instead, and I actually went to great pains to sculpt really, really fine, swirly detail patterns in here that unfortunately did not show up in the print because it's just simply too small and too high resolution of a detail. So you can see just the faintest indications of that in here and on the other side there as well. But yeah, they really didn't come out in any meaningful way. So what I'll do is I'll probably just end up simplifying this design, and I'll have a simplified color scheme in here that evokes what we see color blocking wise. So there'll be sort of brown on the torso here and here, and then gold with a black inlay in the middle of this triangular detail to just kind of mimic Boss Nass's costume. And I'm not going to worry too much about the little swirly details because they really are, they're too high resolution for me to really worry about trying to capture on this model. The other thing that I did for this version is I slightly increased the size of Boss Nass's head. I increased it by about like 3% because I just wanted it to be just ever so slightly more bulbous and big because he's a big-headed fella. But other than that, it's the same. So you can see here the ears and everything. So these are the full support structures. I just wanted to show you this, pre-popping it out because I haven't actually shown the supports up until now. So all of these should break away relatively easily, and then you just clean up with an X-Acto what's left behind, and then obviously just nip off the top of his hat there. It's where the print ended, and the plastic is just left over from where it got finished. So yeah, but making progress. Let's see how this one looks when it's all cleaned up and painted and put onto an actual Boss Nass torso. I've been working on an official minifigure torso for him for this to sit on, so we can actually get a sense of what the final figure is going to look like. So let's take a look. All right, so I went ahead and removed all of the supports. I placed it onto this nice custom body here. This is all the custom work I'm going to do, just to give him some toesies here with the olive green stickers and the brown as well. It all matches pretty well, actually. I'm pretty happy with that. And then give him his olive green hands, and as you can see here, fits down on there nicely. And what I realized is I actually want this to continue down over this belt line a little bit because there's just this sort of blank real estate here that is not being used. And actually, when I was looking at like Chewbacca and other figures like that, they actually do go all the way down right up to where the leg line starts. So I went ahead and just printed it again. So I made the change, and then I was happy that I did because I was actually able to just slightly push the level of the depth of the sculpt for these little details right here so that it actually would show up. So, you're not getting, still not getting amazing fidelity with the design, but at least you can see that there is a design. And when I go ahead and clean this up a little bit more, sand down some of the rough edges, and then apply a wash to this, you should be able to see some nice gold details kind of coming through, a little bit of texture at least, which I think is an improvement on no texture here for this. So yeah, really, really happy with this. I think I'm going to go ahead and call this the final piece. I'm going to clean it up some, sandpaper, a little bit down some of these rough edges, and then I'm going to go ahead and and spray paint it, get it ready to get the final color. Oh yeah, and I did want to just point out that I think that the scale now of these two feels pretty much correct to me. So, you know, Boss Nass has his big head and he feels just about proportional to a minifigure. And also when you put him alongside a Jar Jar Binks, I think that they feel like they're from the same species enough. And, you know, Boss Nass's head is a little bit scaled down, but then with the hat, it just sort of fills in the volume to the satisfactory degree that you'd want to kind of believe that they're in the same universe scale-wise. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. All right, folks, here you go. This is the big final reveal. I have gone ahead and painted up this final piece here. I went and cleaned it up, sanded it, painted it down. I got some Vallejo Model Air paints from my local hobby shop to get a nice smooth finish here with the paint. Usually I used pretty crappy, like just regular artists' acrylics that are not made for that at all. And I went ahead and painted this. And you can see here the finished piece. So yeah, I'm super happy. The paint job on the inside is really sloppy, but that's just because it's going to be on the inside of the figure. And you can see here, he looks great. That's fully Boss Nass right there. And I think the paint did a good job of hiding most of the lines. You really can't see them anymore beneath the texture of the paint, other than a couple of spots where they were like more prominent. But overall, I think it turned out absolutely fantastic. I'm so happy with this figure. And then yeah, the little bit of relief that came in here with the design, I think just looks cool, just with a gold metallic-y kind of a, you know, wash over it, and picked out some of that detail really nicely there. And I wanted to do a little bit of a pattern here on the ears. I was looking at the more modern Jar Jar Binks figures, and I just thought it'd be fun to do a little bit of dappling on the ears there to get that kind of tan, you know, texture to bring that in. Or this is supposed to be Lego's dark tan color, but you know, still. But yeah, I think, you know, putting these guys side by side, they look really fun together. I really like them as a duo. And you know, as far as like the Vallejo colors, this dark green color here almost perfectly matches Lego's dark green, and it was just right out of the bottle. The brown, I did have to mix a couple of different colors together, and then also mix in some of my previously mentioned crappy colors there to just be able to get the color to match the brown a little bit better. So I mixed in some two different tones of the Vallejo paint, and then one sort of to bring in the more reddy tone to the reddish brown. The gold came straight out of tube. The yellow and the black as well for the eyes were straight out of regular tubes there. The dark tan color is actually something that came out of a bottle straight as well. So the only thing that really I had to mix was the skin, the olive green color, and I think that I matched it pretty darn well. And it only took two different kinds of paint mixed together, roughly 50-50, so it's fairly easy to repeat that if I want to, you know, make some touch-ups or make some changes later. So yeah, I think overall it's turned out to be a really successful project, and all from baby's first printer. I can't believe it. The quality that I was able to get from this surpassed all of my expectations, and I was expecting to have something, you know, decent to show you at the end of this video. I did not expect to have something I was so happy with that I think I would actually consider switching over permanently to using this method as opposed to any future clay endeavors, because, you know, you really can't beat the flexibility of being able to print and reprint till you have it exactly the way that you want. You know, go back and make tweaks and then change it and reprint it. And then also the paint finish here, once you get some nice, good quality model paints onto this, you can really get some good results. So man, I could not be happier. Thank you so much to Entina for sending me this 3D printer and having, you know, kind of forcing me to learn how to use a 3D printer, and also just unlocking this new level of kind of capabilities for my channel going forward. So super thrilled with that. So the only thing left to do is put this into a diorama, and I'll just recap a couple of my favorite things about the 3D printer that I think make it worthwhile, and then we'll close out the video. So there you go. I decided to recreate the moment where Jar Jar Binks gets his big promotion. Boss Nass is happy that Jar Jar has brought the Naboo and the Gungans together, and he's giving him the rank of general, which to my mind seems like a big mistake, but hey, I'm not a military leader. I don't know these things. And I just thought it was a perfect little scene to recreate here with my brand newly minted Boss Nass figure. So there you go. So to sum up my thoughts about the Entina Tina 2S printer, it's lightweight, small. It has the one drawback of being only able to print fairly small things, but it has a built-in LED, a self-leveling surface, a heat up pad at the bottom for printing on so that your adhesion is really good. I have no problems with adhesion whatsoever. The ability to download models from your computer and transfer them over either using the wired USB cable provided or using the separate drive. And these are all things that enabled me to take this project from a concept to a finished piece. And the results, I think, are pretty great. So yeah, I think you really can't go wrong if you're looking for an entry-level 3D printer, especially if you already have some sculpting and digital kind of knowledge and you want to just be able to print out some of that output. I think you'll have a great time. I'm by no means an expert at 3D modeling or really at any of this stuff. So the fact that I was able to model through it enough to get a result that I'm happy with speaks volumes, I think, for the capabilities of the printer. So if you are a 3D printing expert or if you have any experience with the Entina 2S printer, please do let me know down in the comments if I messed anything up or if I missed out any details that you were curious about, because I really am a novice at this and I'm purely just going off of my own experiences playing around with the printer for the last couple of weeks to make this project happen. So, but yeah, if you guys are excited about the potential future for producing custom elements for the channel, and if there are things that you want to see me do, please leave those down in the comments. I'm super excited to be able to make, essentially whatever I want, whatever my imagination can muster as far as Lego custom elements. And obviously certain things like super specific pieces that have a really tight tolerance are probably not going to work because the actual surface fidelity is not as high as if you're going to be doing like mold injected plastic parts, of course. So there's only within reason things that I can achieve. I'm thinking that I'm going to be doing a lot of custom heads and accessories, weapons and things like that for my figures going forward to put into my dioramas. So it makes it all the more fun when you're making a mock and you actually can produce all the elements yourself rather than just ordering them from somebody online who already has that particular piece. And I think this for me feels extra satisfying, this little diorama here, having made the actual Boss Nass myself. So that's going to about do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know, like I said, down in the comments if you enjoy the video or not, if you like the final result. And yeah. All right, folks, thank you so much. That's about going to wrap it up for this video. This has been such a fun project and such a fun couple of weeks figuring all of this stuff out. Anytime that I can launch into a new thing that I've never kind of experienced before, it's always a fun experience for me. So thank you for bearing with me as I've been going through the process and laying out all the steps of this crazy process. So yeah, I'm just going to get to work on the next video because I have lots more to bring you guys. If you did like the video, please do drop me a like or a thumbs down. If you did not, leave me a comment to let me know what specifically that you liked or did not like. Let me know down in the comments what other things you want to see in future from me if you are interested in that sort of thing. And if you do want to support the channel even further, you can head on over to Patreon and check out some of the tiers that we have going on over there. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can get, different perks at different tiers, and anything that you give does help the channel to not only stay alive, but to thrive in 2025. That was a lot of rhyming, my goodness. We've got some crazy stuff on the way in 2025. I'm not sure if my big announcement is out yet, depending on when this video drops, but I just recorded a bunch of my advent calendar videos as well. So I went ahead and gave everybody that is remaining to get a shout out their shout out. So I'm back to square one now, and I'm going to be shouting out K Crane for this video. So thank you so much, K Crane. K Crane is insane in the membrane for all of the support that he's been giving me all of these months. So I really, really appreciate you, Kay. You're keeping the lights on. You're helping me buy Lego to facilitate all these crazy projects in future. I hope you liked your little poem there. And if you too want to have a shout out in one of my videos, you can go on over to Patreon and sign up for one of the relevant tiers to get that. So thank you guys again for watching. I'm going to get to work on the next video. I still have my T6 shuttle to finish up. Lots and lots of things to finish up before I can get into the crazy stuff coming next year. So I'm going to get to work. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you on the next one, and may the force be with you.